Tony and Mike in the morning on WICC 600. Time for a second cup of coffee with WICC's Tony and Mike in the morning as another interesting guest joins the show. Here's Tony's conversation piece on WICC 600.
Bob Crane. Bob Crane was the star of the 1960s World War II sitcom Hogan's Heroes, and he had quite a career there in the 60s and 70s. And Bob Crane, of course, from Connecticut. And he had quite a career here at WICC. He was a disc jockey first, spent some time, I believe, in Stanford at WSTC, came up here to WICC, was the program director and morning man from 1951 to around 1956, and then ended up in Los Angeles, and his acting career took off from there. With us is Eric Senich, and, well, he's got a special connection to Bob Crane, and we're going to speak with him for a few moments. Eric, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Tony. How you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Tell everybody what your connection to Bob is.
Well, my connection is through my dad, Jim Senich, who, by the way, was a former DJ at ICC back in the early to mid-'60s. But my dad was Bob's cousin, and they were very close during the time that Bob lived in Connecticut. And they used to see each other maybe almost every Sunday, almost every other Sunday. They'd all have family get-togethers. And so they remained close until Bob moved out, of course, to the West Coast, and then they stayed in touch from that point on.
Now, there's a book out called Bob Crane, The Definitive Biography, which is written by Carol Ford.
Yes.
And this really highlights Bob Crane's career, because I think sometimes, if you know anything about Bob Crane, I think the circumstances surrounding his death and the way that he died, I think, overshadows everything else that he ever did.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, about this project that Carol and I are doing with this podcast that we have. Most of what people know is Bob's career, his Hogan's Heroes days, and then, of course, the ending, how his life ended, which was just tragic. And so there's a whole story there that people don't know. So, we want to get just get the whole story out there for people to know everything about Bob, who he was as a person, how amazingly talented he was, especially on the radio end of things in his Connecticut days, and of course at KNX on the West Coast.
Way ahead of his time when it came to radio, way ahead of his time.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of what you hear today comes from the things that Bob did with the sound bites, and he was just so ahead of his time and just so sharp. He was on top of everything, like my dad would say. I mean, he knew every aspect of the business. I mean, it wasn't just where he knew how to be an entertainer on the air. He knew how to fix things. He could go if something was wrong with a reel-to-reel player. He would go inside and fix it. I mean, he was just that type of person. He mastered radio. By the time he went to Hogan's Heroes, I mean, he had mastered the business of radio.
All right, Eric Senich is here, and we're talking a little bit about Bob Crane. Now, tell us about the podcast. What's that all about? Yeah,
the podcast is something that Carol Ford, who just by the way, did an amazing job on the book, along with, of course, DeYoung and Linda Groundwater. I want to mention them, too. They did an amazing job on this book, Bob Crane, The Definitive Biography. And so it's basically a podcast version of the book, I guess. A chance for people to find out more about Bob. And there's some rare audio clips in there of Bob from his radio days, but also interviews of the people that knew Bob, including my dad, which is a big thing for me. It's just great to hear my dad and his comments on Bob. So it's going to span everything from basically his birth right until the end. And like I said, a lot of things that people don't know. So I wanted to do a podcast, but I wanted to do something that had a particular angle to it, something that other podcasts didn't have. And this is it. And it's really it's her beast. She really works hard on this. She writes the script, sends me the script, but then she produces it, puts the music underneath it. It's really well done, and I think people will enjoy it.
How do we get the podcast?
Well, you can get it in many different ways. If you go to the website, votefobobcrane.org, and that's vote the number 4, bobcrane.org, you can find it there, but we're pretty much everywhere. We're on Spreaker, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. I mean, we're with YouTube. So, we try to make it as easy as possible for people to find it.
Okay, it sounds like it's very, very interesting. I mean, people don't even realize he was a very, very talented musician, a great drummer.
Oh my God! Yeah, he, some of the professional drummers, the big time drummers would say, he was very, very close to that level of where he could have. I mean, if he was into the big band era, and so when that music period ended, when there was a shift in the music scene, he went on to different things. But boy, I mean, you look at some of the clips on YouTube, the Smothers Brothers show, he gets behind the kit, and man, he was good, and he would play while he was on the air. He would play those drums while he was, live on the air.
Sure, absolutely. Well, my mom remembers when he was on the air here at WICC.
Okay.
And, she, every now and again, she'd be talking about Bridgeport and old-time radio here at ICC, and she said she used to enjoy listening to him all the time. Unfortunately, we're running out of time here, Eric. I wish we could spend more time on it. Once again, if people want to hear the podcast, what do they do?
You can go to vote4bobcrane.org. That's really the best way to go there. You'll find all the platforms you can go on, or again, Spreaker, iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, YouTube. So you'll find it, and also we have a Facebook page and a Twitter page and all that good stuff.
All right, and the book, Bob Crane, the Definitive Biography. We can get that on Amazon, just about any place, right?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. Again, you can also go to the website, and again, just an amazing job Carol did with the Young and Linda Groundwater. It tells the complete story of Bob from his birth right until unfortunately that sad ending. But there was a whole life there. So much that he did, that he contributed, and he really should be in the National Radio Hall of Fame. That's for sure.
All right, Eric, I thank you for taking a few minutes. Good luck with the podcast. Good luck with the book, and good luck with everything.
All right, Tony. Thank you.
All right, anytime.